Welcome back to. I had a bit, but I.
You sure
Come with
did.
me, and you'll be in a world of
I
OSHA
look. The
violations.
reason I'm in a bad mood is because I've been waiting to talk about these dog shit movies all day, and I can't. I'm brimming with
With
bullshit.
vim and vigor.
It's really, yeah, it's really, because the problem is when you have a movie that's uniformly bad, it's like worse than these, but it's really simple, so it doesn't take up a lot of space in your brain. But when you have a movie that has really complex reasons for being terrible, it's like holding on to eight babies in your fucking womb all day, and it wears you down.
Okay, Octomom.
Yeah, that's me.
Or John and Kate plus 8 if you prefer.
So are we gonna do this?
Yeah, which one do we want to start? Do we want to start with the 70s or the 2005?
Uh,
I mean, I think it only makes sense to start with the '70s since the 2005 is
I think the 70s one is good as everyone says it is, because I'm a normie.
yucky. These movies
I think
are
it is very lovely
absolutely
and charming
fucking brain
and
poison for
fun.
children. These are some of the worst things you can expose your children to I think I've ever seen.
I would argue that for the 2005 one, but the 70s one is
I mean, I
nice.
think they're both
uh,
almost as
It's
terrible.
nicer. It's still
I
it's like
think I think it's
whimsical.
almost as terrible as the 2005 one, but in a totally different way in terms of brain poison. Um, I mean, maybe not
well,
totally different, but largely different.
I mean, the thing about the 70s one is that it's even morally much worse. Well, it's morally much worse than even the book, because even the book shows the kids surviving. The 70s movie
Yeah.
does not.
Yeah, but it's not even the shitty kids that I'm talking. I'm talking mostly about the fact that the '70s film is a story about the only poor family on the planet, and how corporate loyalty will get the only poor family on the planet up to a nice, wonderful, wealthy living conditions. And that's the main virtue of the story. But other virtues that the story seems to support are eugenics, like suggesting that spoiled children are bad eggs and need to be thrown out. Um, and also that we can just go and kidnap an entire race of people from the jungle and enslave them in my fucking chocolate factory, and that's cool. Just force them to pick up their fucking culture. And it's like, yeah, they agreed to it. And it's like, really? All of them agreed to it? The entire population of Oompa Loompas agreed to sign over their entire.
I don't even know if it's the entire population, because they don't specify it in the books either. In
Like,
the book either.
I don't. I don't see how you're going to get out of that one. I really don't.
That's fair, but it's all presented very
Yeah, but
I mean,
that's
I mean,
the
it doesn't like
problem.
cover
the
up
thing
all of
is
that
that it's
fucked
kind of hard to
upness.
view this with a lens of reality in any way without it being questionable, because this world, much like a lot of other Roald Dahl's worlds, are so far detached from our own by just implementing the simplest of things.
But none of the other Roald Dahl products I've seen or artistic works I've seen have been this insistent on having a moral to the story. Both of these films are fucking like drooling to tell you about the moral of the story. They've been waiting so patiently to get they're exhilarated by the prospect. There's no neutrality. There's no premise. There's no illusion of neutrality. It's like this is a fable, or it's being presented as a fable with a point at the end of it, and that's intrinsic to its presentation. It doesn't. It never even escapes from it. I mean, it spends the whole movie talking about how Charlie's virtuous for being like, I don't know, I guess non-materialistic and selfless, which is like, yeah, sure, but I don't know. The 2005 one is a lot worse because it acknowledges that there are other poor people. It's like, oh, everyone in the factory got laid off, and it's like, okay, well, where are they? You're fine. You're running the factory now, but where are the? You're still just going to use the Oompa Loompa slave labor. All those people still lost their jobs. At least in the '70s, they have the common sense to just not ever acknowledge the existence of anyone else underneath the upper middle class income bracket.
It's weird because I don't think they ever address who drives the delivery trucks. Because in the 2005 one, the people distributing the posters are like human proportion size.
Yeah.
So did Wonka fire everyone, or did he hire specific people to go and do that?
That's a
Because they're
really
not
good
Oompa
question.
Loompas, they're not proportioned the same
Yeah.
way. So
Well, no, they are. Fuck.
what they are, the Oompa Loompas
They
are
are
humans.
They call them Oompa Loompas.
Not the people on the
Like-
bikes.
Oh,
in the
those
fucking
people.
2005
yeah,
one.
Yeah.
Other great
Sorry, my.
other great lessons include TV being bad in a movie that you're watching most likely on television.
Yeah, that's
Which is
definitely
awesome.
antithetical to the presentation of the film. It makes much more sense. I think it. I wouldn't say it makes more sense, but I think it fits to criticize it in a book rather than in
Yeah,
a movie.
well, and it's-
especially a Hollywood, especially in the case of the 2005 one, in like a major Hollywood production.
I guess really my biggest problem with this is that it's God, how do I explain this? It's like it's recent enough to have irony, but it's old enough to be like old Hollywood moralistic. It's like on
It
this
is
weird
15
crossover
years
point
old.
where it doesn't it's able to be ironic without acknowledging that it can't actually be a sufficient moral narrative, which is like the worst possible middle ground to be on, because then you're like subverting fiction and then still insisting that it has some sort of educational value for people's individual lives. But I mean, it's like in Fahrenheit 451, it's like the villain is not television. It's television is being used as a symbol for the absence of thought, or the erasure of it. But that's not what's happening here. Film has irony, so we're talking about literally television in the social context of television, and purely it's not a symbol for anything else. It's just television, which is part of the reason it comes off as so like kind of empty and meaningless, is that a lot of the times that's the extent of the things that were criticized, the virtues or the anti-virtues, whatever you would say, bad character traits that we're criticizing. Yeah, being fat. Whoa, being fat, crazy. Chewing too much gum? Dude, it's just, they're so basic. They're not like deeper character flaws or anything. It's just like...
Well, yeah, I mean, they're kids. Like, they haven't lived enough and haven't experienced enough things to develop any kind of complex character, I would say. And in a way, that's a shortcoming that's not really addressed by the film. Because it's just, this guy got the ticket by eating a whole lot. This kid got the ticket because I don't know. It's more egregious in the 2005 one for sure. But like in the original one, Mike TV's not even really that bad of a kid. He just watches TV. That's it.
Yeah,
he's not like
fucking
he's not
loud
even
and
a piece
annoying.
of shit.
He's actually better than Charlie, because Charlie fucking steals the fizzy, and I get that he's redeemed at the end, but Mike TV literally did nothing wrong. He was just like, I'm gonna be a scientific front runner he volunteered for the pursuit of science and technology.
Self-sacrifice.
He's a hero. He's an absolute hero.
He really is. Like,
In the
what was that? Like, TV is bad for you? He's the fucking coolest kid. What are you talking about?
In the 2005 one is so fucking confused. It has no idea what it's doing with Mike TV. It's like he's playing video games when you first find him. So what I first thought is, oh, it's going to be someone who grew up with Willy Wonka but still likes TV. So the writing is going to be that it's video games instead. But no, it's not. It's just sensory overload, which is really funny to me, considering that the 2005 one is the original with a bunch of excessive, unnecessary sensory overload, as is Tim Burton's style. So the only reason this movie exists is to inject more sensory overload, like fucking Botox, into the corpse of a 70s film, and it's telling me that I shouldn't... Like, what the fuck? It's even more hypocritical than the 70s one. It's insane. How does no one have any self-awareness on this?
As far as I understand it, the only real motivating factor behind Tim Burton's version is the fact that he really enjoyed the book and he wanted to make his film adaptation of it. That's about it.
Yeah.
From what isn't it like more specifically like the book, the Tim Burton one?
Probably.
Well, I did take
I know
a
at least the
I did-
songs.
I did take a
are, like,
cursory
taken
look
from
at
the
the
book.
book, but I mean the songs. Some of the songs, the Violet Beauregard one is the one that takes the least. But at the end of every chapter where a kid gets taken away, the Oompa Loompas recite like a really long poem, basically, and a lot of the lyrics are taken from those poems that are stated at the end of it. And they even he even goes into detail talking about like the Indian prince, and the other side stories and things like that, which are gone into detail in the book, but are just kind of glossed over in the '70s version. Which are, other than obviously the stylistic differences, are the only real major differences between the 2005 one and the '70s one.
It's more reckless. It doesn't understand that the '70s one works on people the way it does because of very careful presentation. And the 2005 one, I guess like a lot of remakes do, isn't fully aware of all of those things that are
I mean,
very...
I remember reading a quote from Tim Burton stating the reason why he liked the book when he was a kid was because it was sort of this almost like maniacal story about this mad genius just fucking with people, basically. And then when he finally makes his version of the film, it still has this warm, soft, fuzzy feeling center to it.
That's the
I would
problem.
almost like it better. I would like it better if it was just he was a heartless bastard.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you can't have your family? Well, fuck you. That's the end.
Because the biggest, the only time I tend to get concerned about the ethics of film is when you sort of use this archetype or this presentation that it's like, it's meaningful. Like you use the after school special framework and jump off from, like, that's when I think is harmful, especially for children. If you're going to have a totally new thing that doesn't play off of existing tropes where this is where the meaning of the story goes here, et cetera, I'm much more open to it. I mean, it's not like, it's such a, I don't know why it still has to be so saccharine. I don't know why it has to take the exact same emotional beats from the 70s one if it's supposed to be a new thing.
Pun intended?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in a weird position where I hate both of them, but I mean, yeah, the 2005 one is not well executed at all. Because the 70s one is well executed, I just don't like it. The 2005 one is just like a sloppy Tim Burton self-suck of stylish, which I guess
kind of like
his
Alice in Wonderland. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, I have it.
I mean,
sick.
Alice in Wonderland, I think, is way worse.
I don't know if I know of a single Tim Burton film I like. I may just be not thinking of one, but right now none of them are coming to mind. So
No, I like a few.
it's just
That's my hot topic
it's
phase.
so. He reminds me of Baz Luhrmann, style over substance, through and through, and not the kind where you're like, oh, the style is the substance. It's the kind where it's just like, is that it?
I liked Nightmare Before Christmas. That's about it.
I think I liked it before girls at my high school liked it, and then I stopped liking it.
Yeah, that's fair. If I lived in that era, that would probably get annoying. But the only person I knew who was like that was my cousin,
Yeah.
so I could tolerate it.
Well, as far as I know, unlike most fandoms, people who are in support of, or people who are in the Nightmare Before Christmas fandom haven't told fan artists to go kill themselves, so I'm more tolerant of those guys than they who shall not be named.
I lost
Yeah.
the thread because I was thinking about my next point. Whatever, doesn't matter.
Well, that's fair. That's more important.
You shouldn't give
Our
Steven Universe
dumb
any more
tangents.
modicum of thought than it
Oh
deserves.
yeah, no, I remember that now. Okay, yeah, let's not talk
Yeah.
about that. Not because it's off limits, because I'm going to forget my point. I hate that in the 70s one, they acknowledge for one song that parenting has an impact in these kids sucking, but none of the movie outside of that one Oompa Loompa song seems to have any comprehension of that
It
It's fucking baffling. And even
seems as
Veruca Salt, who they sing that song about, is still labeled a bad egg by the fucking Goose Machine, which is the eugenics point. Like it can't even stay internally consistent for that sequence. And everything else, it's like, oh, the kids shouldn't. And it's like, how all of this is parenting. You can't hold any of this again. They're children. Like this is, what are we playing by Epstein rules? They can make their own fucking decisions now. Like Jesus Christ, what? It's nonsense. And
yeah, and I think that's probably why Wonka is like so fucking mean to them in the 70s one, or like just non-caring, because it seems like he's kind of like has that same philosophy, but it's not very explicit. Like it feels like the fucking movie makers of both of these, more so in the 2005 one, wanted parents to come out of the theater with their kid like, see, that's why you don't fucking watch TV, dumb shit.
I don't even know if that was. I feel like it was more they thought that was part of making a kids movie or something. Like I don't.
In my opinion, the Wonka in the 70s version hates kids. The one in the 2005 one hates adults. That's the divide.
Yeah,
that makes sense because he is a lot more childish, and it is fucking annoying childish.
Johnny Depp's performance is so weird in that movie. It's like, I feel like it's almost great, but it's really not. It never quite gets there.
It's like a different take on this character who should have kind of been like this weird shut-in who's out of touch with society because he basically closed himself up in his factory. I almost feel like they should have doubled down on that aspect of his character, because they went through a lot of different, hoops to get that part of his character down. The weird haircut, the bone white skin, the very sullen, sunken face
I think
Johnny Depp naturally has.
I think the real thing that ruins it is, first off, another reason the 2005 one is a lot inferior is I wouldn't call the 70s one subtle, but if you compare the two, it is subtle. Because the 2005 one cannot resist adding completely unneeded, like, exposition or, like, a really big, or what is the equivalent of a giant finger pointing to a detail that you would have obviously figured. Like, it has... I didn't realize that the presentation of the 70s one was as good as it is until I saw a fucking hack try and do it again with narration and with him, like, referring to his father and clearly having father issues in the first like 2 minutes we know him, and not just like giving that any time to breathe or be born naturally at all, just having the most artificial fucking thing where he can't say the word parents. Really? That's what it really, he can't say the word parents. He's that traumatized. The fucking concept of parenting, it's so lame. Like,
it'd make
it's
more
the
sense
most
if
like
it was just
thoughtless,
father,
surface level way of like,
yeah,
like of carrying that point on that character. It's so fucking lame.
And I don't know. I don't know if I like the fact that we get some backstory on him or not. It's kind of good in some ways.
It feels fucking pointless.
As the Nostalgia Critic said, it's weird that the version that's labeled Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory focuses more on Charlie, and the one labeled Charlie and the Chocolate Factory focuses more on Willy Wonka.
Well, that's just because they couldn't call it the same thing, so they had to call it a different thing. But
but it is a weird coincidence, which is funny. I find it funny.
It is.
I can't wait for Veruca Salt and the Chocolate Factory myself.
Yeah, my absolute favorite part of the entire movie is both of them is 70s Veruca Salt. She's awesome.
She's Julie Dawn Cole, great actress,
and she's like
great in Angels too.
What I love about her presentation in the 70s one is that she's at the factory, and she's firsthand running shit at the factory, which I feel like is a much better character than her just being a traditional. Now, when you go to the factory, Dad, you get me the like. It's like, okay, come on, that's typical spoiled. Yeah, it's something kind of interesting and not just.
Things.
What if it was What if the kid was fat? Could you imagine if he was a fat kid and then like and then he falls into the chocolate like Narcissus because he's so fat, he's eating the chocolate? Like, oh my god. I mean, that's
You did contaminate the river.
In the fucking, there's a gag I love in the 70s one where they're like interviewing the fucking Augustus Gloop and his family while they're eating,
His
and the
dad
dad
bites
just
the
fucking
microphone.
pops the microphone into his mouth and just eats it.
the 70s one is so weird with those non sequiturs. It has the most bizarre pacing of.
Well,
It's
I think
some of
it's
the most
because,
bizarre pacing of any film I've ever seen.
the
actually.
director used to do documentaries, and so it was like that's why the first half is very like kind of slice of life and like
Slice of life. Is that what
interviewing
that
all
is?
interviewing the fucking
I don't think
people.
that phrase means what you think it means. I mean, it's like a David Zucker comedy squared. The amount of non sequiturs in that, like, it's just there's like half an hour of just skits, like just vaguely plot relevant skits. It's so weird. I don't particularly like it, although I do like the stupid fake sentient AI that you communicate with 6 buttons. And it has already somehow sided with Willy Wonka for no explicable reason. It's just
Well, yeah, I mean that's one of the things that I kind of like about the 70s version compared to the 2005 version is like what you said, it's infinitesimally more subtle.
yeah.
And I buy into the
It's
theory.
sort of dry
I've told
British
y'all about
humor.
it, but I buy into the theory that Willy Wonka is some sort of warlock or wizard of variety.
Yeah,
Which is why he's able to do these things.
that makes sense to me. I mean, I guess
Why he's
down
able,
with
which is
that.
why he's able to have command over an entire or a selection of an entire race of people. Is because they also worship whatever candy god that
Right.
he does. So
yeah. I mean, I guess that would make sense with his dad being able to make a building disappear in half an hour.
yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. Like the 2005 one doesn't really sell me on that aspect as much as the 70s
Right.
one does, because the 70s one has those has the part where the AI just sides with him, which implies a much greater power than just being able to control candy. Like there is some sort of divine protection laid over him, which wouldn't allow people like how Mike TV exploits it in the 2005 version. People wouldn't just be able to buy their way through the system, you know?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that they would just so happen to be found by like adults. No, he very purposefully knew what he was doing. It's almost like he scryed around the world and looked very specifically for these children beforehand, you know? That's the way that I
Yeah.
look at it.
I mean, they do call him out on the coincidences more in the 2005 version, but that's to accommodate people being media savvy without actually integrating it into the plot. I mean, because it's not like that actually culminates
Well, yeah, it doesn't.
in anything.
Yeah, it doesn't build up to anything. It's just okay.
It's just accounting for like the generation of kids that. Oh God, I hate that I grew up around so much irony on television. It really ruined my life. It really ruined my
Just in
fucking
general.
life, dude. Because it's just like there's a whole generation of media where, like, of kids media where all it is we throw a bunch of flashy shit and then we make fun of the traditional ideas of media to create the illusion that we're better than them without substantiating it. And that's
So
like
problem solvers.
it's just so poisonous, man. It's just fucking poison. Like, to go through your life raised with the idea that pointing out the intrinsic flaws in something is what substantiates your betterness or more rightness than that thing. I mean, do you guys see that is the structural reason why my brain is so broken? Like,
Of course.
it's fucking television.
It's because you watch too much TV, dude.
But it's not
Just
even
like
it's
my
not even
TV.
just television. It's like all
No, it's
fucking
media.
media.
Yeah, no.
It's really bad.
I know.
It's a nightmare.
I don't think you do. Let me explain why.
I feel like I'm not quite as cynical as you guys are because I still have like a sense of like childhood whimsy and wonder watching the 70s one, and I still kind of have fun with it.
I mean, I
I
get
don't
the
really.
sense of whimsy,
I mean, I
but
obviously knew like about like, oh, where do the kids go? The kids die, But I kind of figured we would treat that more as like a
I don't
dumb
look. I don't care
fan
about the
theory
fucking
thing,
shit
and
kids. Like that's not my concern with the ethics of the story have to do with all of the
people
people that
watching
aren't
it.
a part of the story. Like
right,
the fact that there's a factory in this Dickensian town and there's apparently only one poor family, which is not how poverty works. I mean, it's just like that's the kind of shit that gets to me. And I guess I feel like the fact that it's effectively whimsy and creative is part of what gives me such a problem with it, because the whimsy isn't tied with any sort of narrative synergy to any of the ideas. It's just for its own sake, which means that like the ideas are left kind of to fend for themselves, and they don't have enough context to make them actually reasonable ideas to put in your movie, and they come off as just like
At least not to
careless.
be at least not to
right.
be obviously observed. Like my
Right.
theory is something that I postulated myself, and the whimsy that I perceive specifically in the 70s version, much less the 2005 one, is that it's the nectar in the trap, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's the blanket that covers the true underpinnings of this horrible death factory, which may or may not be, may or may not be powered by dead children,
Right.
because souls are very powerful in the magical economy, but children's souls not so much. That's why you got to put a few more in there. That's all I'm saying.
And
Petty soul gems.
I guess part of it is that it sort of shows the returning of the gobstopper at the end as like a selfless act,
That's the
when
one
it's like
thing.
but the thing that gets me about that is that it's like you're eating fucking cabbage water and you're living with like 5 people, and the moral is that it's important to make sure Wonka's ideas don't get stolen than it is to make enough money to feed your goddamn family. Like it's like that. How does the fuck does that make any goddamn sense by any metric? I
I
mean,
would excuse it if he still got the truck, but he didn't get the truck, so
like
because at least he could sell off the truck and make money off from that. But no, he didn't get the truck in the end, so
I'm not saying Slugworth is good. He's not, but it's like if you get that opportunity as someone whose family is struggling to make ends meet, it's like that's probably the right choice, unless you're counting on him giving you the whole fucking factory for doing the other thing, which he's not.
I
So
mean,
it's
you know
just
what? Slugworth may not be good, but at least he's offering like actual monetary compensation for a service.
and it's
Whereas
not
Wonka's just like have a tour of the factory and a lifetime supply of chocolate.
it's not just some kind of it's like worse than the exploitation of labor, because it's like the exploitation of your theoretical happiness to sort of create this like sadistic experience based purely on ideology. I mean, I don't know. I feel like the way I think it, if you bring in poverty into a story and you're not prepared to adequately deal with it, that's grounds for me to really call you out on it. That's grounds for me to really be bothered by it and not be able to suspend my disbelief enough to because it's something that people have been so careless with in stories for so long that it's had incalculable detrimental effects on the attitudes of people and the perceptions of where the blame is to be shouldered for the poverty, and just push this fucking individualist narrative for years. And it's just don't fucking bring it up unless you're ready to deal with it in at least somewhat nuanced of a fashion. At least not just completely recklessly. I guess that's just my main thing. I mean, because I don't even know if I would have the concerns I have with the rest of it if I wasn't already in the critical mindset it brought up to me by sort of loosely implying that these are the only poor people that matter in the world. Like that's what starts off the thing that leads to me complaining about everything else ultimately.
So what you're saying is that if we murder all the poor people, then you won't have a problem with this film. Because poor people won't exist. Therefore, they can't exist in the story.
If they had covered the murdering of all poor people in the film, it would be very different, and I would have to analyze it very differently. But you mean in real life?
The middle class is the one who has to go into the chocolate factory.
Yeah, you know what? Adding to Mike TV's innocence, he's clearly the least well off of the other four kids. Like in both films, he's in like a suburban but still like relatively middle class home, whereas fucking
Charlie's got it the worst out of all of them.
Wow.
Well,
dude.
yeah, but he lives a fantasy life.
Wow. Charlie's got it. Let's break this down. Charlie's got the worst out of all of them. This is a truly insightful comment.
First off.
No, that's not even what I'm getting. That's the entire point of the fucking story is that he has the worst material condition. What do you mean?
Yeah, and
it's obvious. It's the fucking framework of the story. This isn't something that has to. This is like.
Yeah, but
this is like John Wick's really badass, dude. By the way, when we watched John Wick, I realized that guy's really good at shooting people. Holy shit! Like, what the fuck?
Because
of the other four kids was the phrasing I used, and what I meant.
Fine.
Because Charlie's not even in the same fucking equation.
That was my bad then.
He's having some trouble.
Charlie's the Forrest Gump of this universe, where he's.
Oh, that okay.
I knew you weren't gonna like these films because it does, like, Charlie does evoke a similar situation to Forrest Gump.
And it's not the stupidity aspect, but the just do the right thing and put yourself do the necessary thing and things will work out for the best, which I just feel. I wonder how many people that's gotten fucking killed over the course of the years. People who are emotionally impacted by these films, and they're like, yeah, that's right. I just gotta, and then they just fucking die because it's not how it works. I'd love to see some statistics on that when I get to St. Peter. Have them hook me up with the deets.
To think you're going to heaven.
Yeah, I'm just fucking with you. That's not going to happen. But yeah, Mike TV, he's like...
If you're lucky.
I mean, I guess Violet Beauregard probably isn't super rich, but her dad owns a dealership. Where I get the sense with Mike TV that his dad works at, like, Initech. So...
Yep.
I don't know.
Office Space, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory crossover.
I like it a lot more, if that was part of it.
It definitely seems like, I get this feeling more in the 2005 one, but that Mike TV's family is incredibly apathetic towards him and does not love him, which is the one thing that Charlie's family has over Mike TV's.
Yeah, and no, you're right, and it definitely does not translate to deserving, like... whatever kind of stupid poetic point is being. I mean, it obviously that doesn't hold up. It's very individualistic as well.
I think the story.
We're throwing it under
the other thing too is that I'm not a huge fan of that Roald Dahl story. I'm much more of a fan of The Great Glass Elevator, which is much better.
I didn't read either of them.
I think the story would be much more fitting if it did sort of align more with the books, in that more of the parents got the punishment and the kids were sort of the ones who were escorted away.
Yeah.
Because like you said before, really it's the parents' fault from the beginning. This isn't a case of the chicken or the egg situation, because the egg came first in that situation. But when it comes to parenting, it's the chicken. You know? They're the ones who impact their children more than literally any other human on the planet.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously not a complete consolidation of blame to one party, but neither is adult individuals. So it's like you pick the greatest percentage, and in this case, it's easily the parents. It's not even close. First off, because you don't count individual decisions from children, because if you did, you would be Epstein. So it's... I mean, I feel like people need to bring that point up more when they criticize the actions of children, whether it's from like wokeness or something. Is that it's like you realize that if you're implying that children are capable of making their own independent decisions, you're basically arguing for Epstein. Like, that's the logical conclusion of the point you're making. That's the reason we don't count that, and it's
Well,
statutory
most
because
of
they
those
don't
people
fucking
are
make decisions.
pedophiles as well.
Who say that kids can make decisions about other stuff? I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't think. I think there are definitely some moralizing boomers that complain about children being rotten or something that don't.
At the end of the day, let your kid pick what ice cream he wants, but don't let him drive the car.
Can we talk about the Quake remake for Atari 2600 and when that's going to get a release?
I think you mean demake is the proper term.
It didn't even look like a 2600. It looked like a gimmicky sort of Jaguar thing.
I don't even know what y'all are talking about.
In Mike TV in 2005, he's playing.
Oh, okay.
It looks
with like a joystick.
It looks
and
like a Quake knockoff. I haven't played Quake, but I know what that one gun looks like, and it looks very similar. And with like auto, he's got like an aimbot on, and
I mean, he probably programmed him. Yeah, probably programmed it himself.
And he's
Because he
playing
knows
it.
what the Nikkei index is.
The game console looks like one of those conference calls things you'd see in an office like meeting room.
We need the
playing
soundboard
dance.
to play cricket sounds whenever Ryan says something on the podcast.
I'm just going through all the images of those microphones and speaker combos that I've seen. I'm not coming up with a combination. It's probably just he probably just has like, I thought for a second it might have been like a Commodore joystick or something like that, but no, it's more of like an actual first person stick than it even is like a flight stick. Because I knew my software engineering professor used a flight stick and a numpad combo when he played Quake. I know, because he showed us.
I can't stop thinking about how not only is the 2005 one is so flashy and sensory overload, but that song in particular, I guess maybe it's irony. That's what it's got to be. It's fucking irony poisoned, and it sucks that it's talking about how fucking overloading your senses is bad while it's like cutting rapidly between a fucking rock concert and like 2001 A Space Odyssey music. Literal references, ironic like that children.
Not even just the music.
The fucking
literally
monolith.
replacing the chocolate with the fucking monolith.
Who is that for? Is that supposed to be like for the adults or like so the kids can come back to it later? Because I fucking hate that this shit was done to me where I know the cultural significance of a reference before I even know what the fucking thing that it's from is. And now that it's not even like a work of art, it's just like a fucking tool of expressing an idea in shorthand. It's a nightmare. It's a fucking nightmare. It's fucking poison.
We are living
SpongeBob.
in a
Sorry.
hell world whenever we are watching any Hollywood film.
That's that's the conclusion I was gonna.
And just in
I
general.
was definitely spinning around to like one of those pennies in a museum when you.
Oh yeah,
Drop
those
it in the
huge like donation things, but you put the penny in the slot at the top and it spins around
Mm-hmm.
very
Is
satisfyingly.
Is that enough references for someone of my generation to include?
Well, you need to put in the penny, the novelty penny reference too.
Oh yeah, okay, I'll get that in.
The
somewhere.
thing that costs
I
like
have zero clue
75
what we're
cents
talking
for a
about.
novelty penny.
Yeah, but you got to have a souvenir because it's not real if you don't.
Was it
get a
75
souvenir.
cents? I'm trying to remember. I don't think it was actually that high.
What the
It was
fuck are we
still
talking
higher
about?
than a novelty penny. Novelty pennies, dude. You never seen one? They're
I've
huge and
seen,
cylindrical.
I've seen a few novelty pennies in my day.
Well, there you go. Then you know what we're talking about.
I'm just having a moment where I'm realizing how many ways I was poisoned as a child by media, and it's depressing me. That's all. Thank God for Courage the Cowardly Dog, which, while submitting to a lot of the irony that I'm complaining about, also did so with a relentless, overbearing cloud of anxiety that makes you question it more than anything else.
Yeah.
As it should.
Thank you, Angry Beavers.
Can we talk about? Can we do the rest of the episode on that one Courage the Cowardly Dog episode with the domestic
The
abuse
Mask.
and the prostitution?
The
The
Mask.
domestic, yeah.
The
you
one
know what?
episode that everyone talks about, yeah.
Because it's fucking incredible. Is why everyone talks about it. Probably, I don't know. Maybe not. But the fact that they're also lesbians too. How do they get all that shit into one episode?
That's why people talk about it.
Because
But it's done well too. It's not like they just callously throw these ideas without developing them, like some children's centric media does with some real issues. It like actually handles them with some grace, which is insane. And like prose. I know it's not written word, but the thing where he finds the fucking, I guess it's the bunny in the and she's in like a pot buried under dirt, and it's like this is how we're representing this abstract, complex, distressing, emotional idea in a children's cartoon. It's fucking ingenious, dude.
It's really well done.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we don't have to do the rest of the episode.
Children's cartoons should
I
have
mean, I
more
haven't watched it in
adult,
like 20 years,
quote
so
unquote,
I can't really
adult,
talk about it.
like morals.
I
and
remember the
themes in them.
themes. I remember the general plot of the episode. I remember it being really good even back then
Yeah.
when I didn't really know about those concepts. I still understood the idea of abuse, even though I hadn't really experienced it before. It was still like managing to fit with the tone of the show, which is something that, looking back on it, I think is probably the most incredible aspect of it.
Yeah.
Is the fact that it doesn't feel heavy-handed in any way. It doesn't feel
Right,
like
yeah.
this message is forced. This feels like a real situation with real people.
It's not the
Which was kind of the genius of Courage in the first place.
Yeah.
Which was the finding with the way that the show managed to humanize these inhuman characters. Even Eustace had his moments.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely
far
right.
between.
I've never thought about it that way before, but you're super, because it's like Eustace is the one-dimensional villain of another cartoon with like no complexity or anything.
He's
to him at all.
he's the Mr. Wilkins of Dennis the Menace.
Yeah, for sure.
Next episode, Dennis the Menace.
Yeah, all Dennis the
No.
Menace material and media, including the other one.
God. Fuck that movie, by the way. I'm not picking it, by the way,
Okay.
but fuck that movie.
Cool.
Yeah, I want to just watch that entire series again. Because
Yeah,
It's really good. I think
just
I
the
think
atmosphere.
multiple people have been uploaded it on YouTube, so it's
The
even
atmosphere
easier.
is incredible.
To be completely honest, I watched like a few episodes of it as a kid, and I knew about it, but I never really like watched the full series and like saw all the big popular ones like Freaky Fred and all that stuff. I kind of heard about it secondhand, so I kind of
I mostly
wanna watch that
remember.
too.
I mostly remember the episodes. I don't remember the title cards because at my aunt's house, this would have been like 13 years ago or something. But there was a huge marathon of Courage on. Well, it was Courage and Scooby Doo because it was like dog themed, and it would basically like every other. It would switch between them. So like there'd be a Courage episode, then a Scooby Doo episode, Courage Scooby.
Mhm.
I think specifically it was like the old Scooby-Doo cartoons from the 60s, not
Yeah.
What's New Scooby-Doo or A Pup Named Scooby-Doo or any of that stuff.
So it's someone sitting in a boardroom like, what are our two horror shows? And not realizing that those are actually more tonal opposites than probably any other combination of shows in the entire fucking vault. But
I mean,
which just goes to show how
I still enjoyed them.
yeah, no,
regardless,
yeah,
so
sure.
even if the decision was cynical, which 99% chance it was,
Yeah.
it was just, let's be cynical about showing these shows together. It's like, okay.
Yeah,
But then they were
sure.
like, let's be cynical and show live action shows. And we were like,
No. Let's not.
Dude,
I
what would
tried
happen-
them.
Dude, what would happen if we canceled this show?
Ow! Get him, dude. I tried the fucking live action shows. I was a consumer as a child. I gave it
oh man,
I gave it a
I'm
chance.
sorry.
Maybe that's when I was no longer a consumer, is when I just
You can thank dude.
Because
What
that
Would
was
Happen
no,
to
because that
Ed.
was right after they they had a good run, like the good run before the Adventure Time regular show Gumball run, where it
Well,
was
that
like
was the Dark
Flapjack and
Age.
Chowder and Total Drama. Yeah, like that was a good run. Total Drama for season 1 at least, and Flapjack and Chowder pretty much their entire series. So, and they also showed fucking 16, which maybe top 5 shows they ever fucking showed on that channel, TBH. To be honest,
Did you ever
with
watch the surfing show that was related to 16?
I remember thinking it was unfortunate, but I didn't watch much of it. I watched like the premiere or something, and I was like, yeah.
I got
It
the
definitely
theme song
got
stuck
better
in my
from
head
what I
for
remember.
16, but
Okay.
I don't
I
think it
didn't
was
watch
as
it.
good as 16, but it was still all right. They had some pretty good episodes, like where they skipped work and ate beaver tails all day.
Okay. Angry Beavers full series next week on.
I think
Celluloid.
I I didn't watch it when I was a kid because when it was running, I was too young to really get that kind of that. I guess I don't know.
It's still 16. One of my favorite jokes from that show was the country music bit. I think I mentioned it before.
Yeah,
maybe even
we
on the
watched that
show.
one recently. Ryan
It's
and I
really
late
good.
night and a watch together. It
Yeah.
was good. It's a rare example of where like writing is the focal point of a cartoon, which is like how often does that? I mean, like in a kids focused one, I guess. And there's like a lot of Adult Swim shows that have that.
Well, I
But-
guess
Yeah.
when you can focus, when you don't really have to focus too much on your animation because it's just a cheaply made Canadian animated
Right.
show, you can put all of your other eggs into the writing basket.
Yeah,
So it saves you a lot of headache, I suppose.
and it holds up a lot better over time because I mean, like animation that relies on animation obviously can be great, but it for children it seems like it appeals to low attention spans more than anything else. most
Well,
of the
because
time.
part of what I think made it good in particular is that it didn't rely on one of the traditional strengths of animation as much, which I mean it is a strength, but it was interesting to see that it didn't. And it's the fact that you characterize a character by the way that how
Yeah.
they walk. And in that show they just had generic walk cycles, there wasn't
Right.
any bounce or circumstance or pomp to the way they moved. It was very realistic.
They
Um,
they fit into archetypes, but not cleanly. They have
yes.
nuance and texture to them. Not like particularly like deep characters or anything, but in the sense that it's a considerably more entertaining program when there's enough texture to sell them as human beings instead of just like logical extremes of ideas. Yeah, it's considerably more interesting when you have that.
But yeah, I mean it's like Star Trek. Star Trek does the same thing because you have the character of Worf, and he comes from the warrior society, and you think that that's his approach for everything. But the interesting shit comes up when he has to deal with situations where he can't apply that mentality, and you basically have to write in new things. That's when Worf's character becomes interesting.
Right.
Like when he likes prune juice unexpectedly, and that's
Star
his
Trek-
favorite beverage of choice.
Star Trek seems like it shares a lot of crossover with good RPG writing.
It's yeah, like the
Probably
part,
the inspiration for it.
probably not the original
least some of them.
series.
Yeah, but I mean, like, when you have a lot of established ideas and then it's your job to not only use those ideas in a way that makes sense and is interesting, but to also kind of transcend them in a way so that it's not just, and this is what orcs do, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of that you kind of get with TNG a little bit because it's more of a monster of the week type of show
Hmm.
where the whole premise is that it's about the travels of the Enterprise. And at a certain point, you do have to kind of come up with a race a week. Or it's just like, these guys are humans, but they're blue and they speak in binary or something like
Right,
that.
right.
But
Well, yeah, I've
when
only
it gets
seen.
good, when it gets good is like, okay, we're gonna write in a stupid capitalism race for this one-off.
Yeah.
But then we're gonna expand upon them in other episodes, and then we're gonna make one of them a main character for
Yeah.
our next show, and expand on it even more.
Now he has to be a character. That's when it works. That's when RPG writing kind of hits its stride, when it establishes a world that you can then establish conflict with.
Well, because they're not only establishing context for the Ferengi culture by just having more Ferengi characters, but you're establishing context by presenting Ferengi culture through multiple different perspectives, not just from other races, but within the Ferengi alliance itself.
Right.
Because you don't just have Quark, you also have Ram and Nog, who are three prominent characters in the show, all of which represent different aspects of not just character archetypes, but Ferengi culture as a whole, which is what makes them an interesting trio. Star Trek is good. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, not as much.
This is going to be the dumbest and lamest thing I ever bring up on the podcast, but I just had a sequence happen in my head where it's Benny from New Vegas, but except he's Star Trek, and then the courier is Star Wars, and he's like, from where you're sitting, it must look like a 7-movie run of bad luck. But
that joke would have been way funnier in 2015.
yeah, I guess it would. Yeah, because Picard, right. Fuck. Yeah,
It's pretty good.
And also, only Star Wars 7 was out at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean, like the 7 bad movies. I mean, I haven't seen the only Disney Star Wars movie I saw was Solo, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay. I've heard that consistently from most people.
That's pretty good. I mean, me too, but
I think I
can see why people fucking
I think the most egregious
it.
thing is the whole flying solo. Yep, what's your name? Solo.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
That's really bad.
I mean, I just remember liking it more than other people because it was like, it's just another generic Star Wars story, and it's like, well, yeah, it is, but it's also one where at the end of it, Han Solo's traditional damsel in distress narrative fails, and that's like the grand conclusion of the story, is that his like heroic idealism is not the truth, and that's like the foundation. And I'm like, that's seems good to me. I don't know what's the problem.
And that would become the character that we would see
exactly
in episode
like I don't
4.
understand what the problem with that. And Donald Glover as Lando is great. He's like,
yeah,
is
that
the
too.
whole movie.
I like pretty much all the modern Star Wars movies because I do not give a shit about the originals or like the lore or anything. I just want to see cool.
I mean, I don't give a shit about
shit.
the whole fucking franchise outside of the original
I think
Empire
it's
and
cool.
KOTOR 1 and 2 is like really all I care about, to be entirely honest. So
The thing that I hate about the new Star Wars is just the mismanagement and the lack of any singular vision.
yeah. Well, and
That's the problem with it.
I'm sure if I watched Mandalorian, I'd be like, yeah, it's pretty good, but I don't want to watch it because it's like, even if I think it's pretty good, it's still just a product to me. It's not.
Well,
I'm not going to expect like something really
everything's a
interesting or
product.
insightful. Well, yes, but Disney especially. Like, I feel like Disney has really been doubling down on the concept of artistic product and been sort of like fleshing that out.
Of
And
course, I mean,
to the
been
point
buying
that
out fucking media companies over the past like 20 years.
Well, to the point that like you have like channels, and this is a bad decision because I haven't watched a lot of her stuff, but Jenny Nicholson seems like a channel dedicated to genuine criticism of only products and like no like actual art at any point. And it's just like, this is what happens when you get too good at making artistic products, is you trick people into thinking this is art. This is the worst possible scenario. It would have been way better if there was a clear division continuously into the foreseeable future. I guess with Marvel it kind of is, because I feel like even people who like Marvel movies are being faced with the realization that they're not art at this point. They have to really like wrestle with that, but maybe not. I don't know. Some of them are probably
Not
still
after
holding on to.
Endgame.
Which,
Endgame was art because Iron Man died.
you know, it would have
And
been
it was
cool.
3 hours long. That's
You know-
all real art is.
You know, I would have loved Avengers the two-part movie if all the dudes that died in the first one stayed dead. Because then it would be like,
Well, yeah,
oh,
if any decision had any impact whatsoever,
And it was- yeah.
And it wasn't just
That's
let's
just
fix it with
comics in
time
general.
travel.
I know, that's probably why I fucking hate comic books so much.
Well, yeah, because you can't actually have Superman die, because if Superman dies, it's the end of that comic.
Yeah.
And you have to come up with something else, and it's easier to come up with stories for a character that already exists than drum up some new Superman clone
Right.
and just
And then you
go
can
through
do
stories
the
with
thing
them.
where it's like,
In a way that, now that I think about it, we may get to a point where DC and Marvel and comics just become so cynical that we end up killing those characters off, but then we just repeat the exact same story arcs with the new characters slotted in. Same dialogue, same art, same everything, but just with the new characters placed in. Like, instead of Batman versus Superman, you have Aardvark Man versus Outstanding Man.
I think what is most likely to happen with that.
Oh no,
is
I'm
that-
not saying my situation's realistic. I'm just saying that.
Well, no,
it's-
but if it was a video game, right, and then
Oh.
there would be like you get credit for playing the same fucking campaign with 100 different combinations of that's plausible to me. I think, especially if it was like an MMO and it was like the achievement for playing the fucking Spider-Man campaign with all 100 incarnations of Spider-Man, and it's just the same thing every time. Welcome
Yeah,
back to.
different incarnations of characters too. That's just a cop out at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, it doesn't. They try to play this thing where it's like, oh yeah, but that universe version of Spider-Man is dead, but this isn't, and it's like, okay, but then all of
still
the
have
weight of that is
616.
now gone. So
We
what?
still have 616. 616 ain't going away.
I guess the only way that works is if there's some hyper-specific relationship between two universes, and you need both Flashes, and having one Flash dead means the other Flash has some other problem. But it's like at this point
This is why Star Trek focused on one timeline and very occasionally dipped into other timelines where other possibilities of universes happened.
yeah. I mean, all media is on one timeline. This is known. It's Fallout
Of course.
first.
Fallout first, okay.
Yeah, and then it's Elder Scrolls, and then it's Deus Ex, and then the world ends after Deus Ex Invisible War, which I don't think is what happens, but it's if not, then it's sometime after that.
Kind
And
of
then-
one
Some
of the
people say that
endings.
loops into Dark Souls.
And then no, but they're wrong. And then it's our universe, our timeline happens after that, and then
So
it's
that's
Dark
where we're
Souls.
at right now. as
Yeah,
opposed
Dark
to
Souls is
Invisible War.
next, and I'm looking forward to it. So
After that one
I'm
friend
so
group of
excited
mine
for Dark
basically
Souls.
hollowed out.
yeah.
That's where we're at.
If I'm not a hollow by the end of 2020, I'm gonna be fucking disappointed.
Do you know how fucking hyped I would be to be the guy that sits at the bonfire and tells you to give up? That's like a job that's fucking made for me. Just be like, you really should just sit here and hang out. You are not. You're
There's
not
not.
gonna do that. There's no fucking way.
You fucking chill out.
Let's just
bro.
sit here and bitch. Stay away from Mop Top over there. He's fucking annoying.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna kill anyone, just kill him. Don't bother killing any of the demons or anything like that. They're just gonna come back.
Yeah.
I think this was a film podcast at one point.
Yeah, it used to be. But sometimes changes for the
The
best.
film is a topic, and we just talk about it because we said we should.
The
And
most
then we talk
enjoyment
about other crap.
I had in both of those films is in the 70s one when I realized that there's an Aphex Twin sample of that movie that I never knew about.
What?
The line where he says, "We are the music makers" is a sample in the track called "We Are the Music
Oh.
Makers."
For some reason, I was thinking it'd be the whistle.
And
There's a little flute he brings out to call the
His
Oompa Loompa.
piccolo.
That would be a good sample.
it's the kind of thing where I've listened to that fucking album so many times that I recognize the cadence immediately, and I'm like, oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
okay.
it's a good line. So.
It is, and it's done well. Gene Wilder is great in that movie, by the way. I make no.
Yeah, he's definitely the best part of it.
And watching it with the context of what Soy told me some time ago that he didn't want to yell at the children, I think gives it a new dimension because it's like.
Oh, because the director for that version was like known to the cast and crew as being a horrendous douchebag.
Right. But he comes off as this kind of like slightly brooding, like silent, kind of like roguish guy, I guess, because it's like he's just sort of letting the kids destroy themselves and like
He's chaotic neutral
making
is
a
how I would
quiet
describe
quip
it.
about it and not really doing anything to stop it or encourage it
Well,
or anything. And it's
he's true neutral.
Help,
He's not
police,
chaotic.
murder.
yeah, he's not very chaotic. It's true.
He'd be if he was chaotic, he'd be more inciting of the incidents, but he lets the kids fuck themselves over. He orchestrates the scenario, but he doesn't directly influence
Yeah, that's
the
why I said
kids.
neutral. Sorry.
You said
I did not mean to
chaotic
interrupt
neutral,
you.
fool.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Uh,
As in, like, that's why I said neutral instead of chaotic evil.
but that's not okay. It's a
Does
different-
Planescape as a setting exist only to save D&D alignment from being the fucking worst thing ever with no good reason to exist? Is it the only reason that
I mean,
it's even like that?
please enlighten me, because there is no real reason for D&D alignments to exist, in my
Well,
opinion.
no,
People
it's-
barely
someone
ever stick
hasn't
to
read
them.
the rule books.
In Planescape, it's necessary, even if ignoring mechanics, it's necessary narratively because the whole premise of Planescape is that the extremes of all 9 of those alignments are places where crazy shit happens.
That's not even also the only planes that exist.
Yeah,
There's
so
a lot of them.
and it's like in that context, it's awesome.
That's to say
In
nothing
any
of,
other context, it's stupid. At least that's my
that's to
opinion.
say nothing of the planes of the Feywild, the Shadowfell, the ethereal plane, the astral plane, the elemental planes, fire, water, air,
Yep.
earth, salt, slime, smoke, the gemstone one. There's a lot. There's even more because technically there's a spell which allows you to create a demi-plane, which is a pocket dimension that can exist within the astral plane or the ethereal plane.
Yeah, but I'm only
things of
talking
that
about the
nature.
ones that save the alignment system from being narratively stupid, regardless of its mechanical merits, of which I'm sure.
Oh, so you must be talking
There are
about the plane
many.
of infinite punching.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
Okay.
Do you think I could actually, like...
No.
Do you think I'll actually play this? Like, if I force myself to, I could actually play it? Or is
Wait,
it,
are you
like,
talking about
too-
Torment specifically? Planescape Torment?
Yeah.
Uh,
Or is it too much for me?
yeah, I think you could, mostly because if you get to the point where it's just really sick writing, you'd probably appreciate it. If you
The
like.
problem is you need to have a high enough int to install the game and understand its mechanics. So
I would
I
would
check your character sheet
recommend
before installing
just putting the combat difficulty to minimum because I can almost guarantee that you are not gonna want to learn how to like because it isn't even AD&D combat really. I mean it is, but it's not combat isn't the focus, so you don't have the options that you would normally
Right.
have in AD&D. And it's just like it's learning enough about AD&D combat to just like sidle your way through the encounters, which is
Well,
not
'cause
something I
it's-
think you would enjoy.
it's a video game at the end of the day. You can't possibly integrate a whole tabletop experience into a video game without it being just a board game simulator like Tabletop Sim,
Well, right, but
which
they
even then is accommodating of human players.
they're trying to do something that almost directly conflicts with that idea, unlike something like Baldur's Gate, where they actually tried really hard to just make it the tabletop game. It just is fundamentally impossible to actually do it. I mean, it's kind of antithetical to some earlier CRPGs in that sense. But, I mean, you should finish Disco first, at
Definitely.
least. Because if
Gotta
you...
do that.
The
Finish
if
Far
you
Cry
can't
2.
if you can't get into the appeal of that writing, that it's Planescape Torment has a similar appeal of writing, one that just takes like 3 hours to get started on. Is basically what I'm
Right.
saying. So it's just
I'm
yeah.
100% into the writing. I'm just kind of lazy when it comes to, like, actually playing it and, like, trying to figure out where to go sometimes. But I'm definitely gonna finish it.
I just
Now that I said that on a recorded thing, it means I'm actually gonna do
it
it.
doesn't count if no one listens to the thing, Ryan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have my dad call
Would that
me.
make the
Falls in a
podcast better if
forest.
we didn't release it?
No.
Just like you said about the best art is
Well, yeah, but that was more referring to something that, because of its form, cannot be shared. I mean, if we're talking about a conversation
it's just
that we can
withholding
record,
the art itself.
it's not going to be yeah, that's just arbitrary at that point. I'm talking about something that
Right.
literally cannot be translated outside of an
Talking
insane
about the
man's
purest
mind.
form of self-expression, which is beholden only to the self and
Precisely.
to no other entities.
Soy knows what I'm talking about a lot of the time.
He does.
Where's the sting? What?
No, I just, I always complain about people not knowing what I'm talking about, but Soy knows what I'm talking about a lot of the time.
I'm intent to listen to you telling me what you're talking about.
I appreciate your honesty. I guess I should outline my pick for next week. Next episode.
I guess if we're not gonna.
I would hope it would be next week.
Planescape.
We got
No, it's not that.
That'd be cool.
I already alluded to Dunk what it is. Max Keeble's bit? No, it's not that either. It's Mary and Max.
Oh,
Mary and
okay.
Max.
Did
Now let me look at that.
It's an
See what it
Australian
is.
stop motion animation.
Ooh, that is interesting. Huh. All right.
And yes, Dunk
Yeah.
was Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
Very 2009 stop motion film.
What does
don't know
that
how
mean?
else
What does that
describe
even mean?
It has the same feel as other sort of like Leica films, like Coraline, almost, but like a
not
lot more
really.
cartoonish and
I'm going to tell you right now that's not true.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
It's not nearly as fluid, which I think is fine. It's just not as fluid.
I mean,
Okay. Well, I'm interested to watch it.
It's more.
You usually, unless you're intentionally choosing trash, don't choose anything bad, and so
It's
Now, what are
just
you
he
talking about? Flubber's
intentionally
great.
chooses trash about half the time, which is the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, you never
Like
know
dogs is
whether to
trash.
choose trash or a really good movie.
I'm trying to remember the ones that I've picked that I thought were actually trash, because I didn't think Smart House was trash. I just thought it was funny.
No, I think it's good. I like it.
The only one that I remember that I deliberately picked because I knew it was bad was Flubber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, no, you've mostly chosen good. I think it's more with me.
It's mostly just because I like these films. A lot of the bad films I've seen have either been seen by everyone or have been talked about by everyone. And the cultural awareness of them is just... I don't think it would make a good discussion,
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Like Troll 2 or The Room. Or
Yeah,
things
like
that.
what? Yeah. I mean,
Not really much to say that hasn't already been said. Especially
Yeah.
now that the disaster artist exists. We have the be-all, end-all commentary. Unless
can
Tommy
imagine-
Wiseau puts out his own autobiography, then we'll have the be-all, end-all commentary.
I can imagine doing 5 minutes on The Room before running out of shit. That's as much as I can.
Have you guys played the Room Flash game?
No,
I
but
watched
I
a Let's
watched
Play of
the Matt
The best friend.
and Leanna play it. Which I guess was the earlier one, where they were fucking wasted on stream, and they were like cosplaying as characters, which is
Oh
awesome.
god, they could pull that off. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Liam at peak hair, I think, could pull off.
Oh, I said I meant Leanna, not Leanna.
Oh.
It's that's her name, right? His wife. I don't fucking know.
Yes.
I'm
I don't
pretty
really
Liam
sure.
Mann.
Well, for some reason, I remember Willy.
I think Liam could pull
Yeah,
off,
they-
Did they-
pull off Tommy Wiseau.
Matt
he
streamed
just
it
dyes
as his
his
own
hair.
thing first, and then they went back and did an LP. They broke the glass on it.
Oh, okay. Liam has too much of like a baby face to do Tell Me Why Zoe. He needs to be like
Well, you could
aged.
put some makeup on to accentuate the cheeks, maybe.
Somehow I
Yeah.
feel like us talking about best friends is the most alienating thing we've ever talked, because it's gone now. There's nothing.
Yeah.
No, the most alienating thing would be me mentioning Microsoft Marbles.
Okay, yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
okay.
You
Let
guys
me
know about
let me guess.
Hamster Ball? You guys remember that?
Windows 95 scrapped program that organized your taxes.
Wrong.
Eh.
I mean, I might be able to pull out some shit. Let me think here. I don't know, man. Like, But I need a conversation for it to emerge from. Is the thing.
I've been
I'll let it
fucking around with a
marinate.
deck of cards this whole time. It's
Oh,
my
yeah?
new fidget spinner, which I've never owned, but I have used before. Someone else. They had one that I don't know how they came to be in possession of it, but they had a fidget spinner with the Autism Speaks logo printed on it.
Yeah,
which
hell
I
yeah,
thought
dude.
was
Sweet,
really
the
funny.
bad one.
It was actually like, it wasn't even a shitty one. It was like had the metal on the rings of it. You know what I mean? So it had like a little bit of weight to it. It wasn't like a shitty plastic one or anything like
Right,
that.
right.
Which was what was surprising about it. Well, actually, I guess I shouldn't be surprised about it given the common user base for those things. Retards. That's what I'm getting at.
Whoa! Oh yeah, I actually wrote that down in my notes.
You
my,
said he
says
my
retard.
TV
You
says
wrote down the
retard.
word retard.
No, Mike TV
The-
in
the only-
2005 says retard.
Oh yeah,
And
he
it's
does.
super
I
weird.
forgot about that.
It's a very specific era where something like that would happen.
I think
Like
my
it's
favorite
late enough
dumb-
that the culture has eroded enough that you can be that edgy, but before wokeness dictated that you could no longer be that edgy.
I think my favorite dumb Mike TV line from the 2005 one is where they're in the white room, and he's like, "There's a difference between waves and particles."
Yeah, it's,
Duh.
like, it's so stupid, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, duh.
Fucking got him.
There's
And
a
it's like,
difference
okay.
between atoms and flesh. You fucking
it's-
idiot.
The only
And
other
it's like,
note I
okay,
made was
nothing else that you've seen has called anything like that into question. Now it's the chocolate being teleported across the room. It wasn't the literal mountain that was inside of the factory.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
yeah.
It wasn't any of the things you saw in the invention room.
Fucking
It
2005 Mike TV in his shitty cargo pants. Fuck you. Fucking Shark
so
Boy
great.
Mike TV.
He needs.
No,
He
that-
looks like he
that's-
should be
I
in like a
love-
Blink 182 video.
I love his aesthetic, as it were, because I remember kids in elementary school dressing up.
Yeah,
like that, and
yeah.
it's so
Hell yeah.
good.
It was such a fucking depressing. God, we were all poisoned.
The fucking gamer shirts where it's like pizza, video games, and homework. What I'm made of.
Do you guys remember that brand there was like a little flame dude and like a little like blue like watery dude, and they would fucking hang out or kill each other or something?
I think
That's
so.
yeah, Fireboy and Water Girl or something.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's right. The Robert Rodriguez film is definitely what I was. Yep.
I keep mistaking Lava Girl as being the same girl from Spy Kids, but that's not true. Because
Yeah.
she was way older at the time.
Yeah.
Although it is Taylor Lautner. That much is
Yeah.
certain. Playing
Damn.
yet another half human, half animal creature.
Have you guys
That's his whole
seen
career.
From Dusk Till Dawn? It's a classic.
I've played the game From Dust. Does that count?
From Dusk, but so no.
No, I mean From Dust.
Yeah, but if it was called From Dusk, then it would count. But because it isn't, it doesn't.
But it's made by the same guy who made Out of This World, Eric Chahi. Made some good stuff.
I like
Like
how in
Flashback?
the
That still doesn't
2005.
count. I had to check, but it still doesn't count, unfortunately.
Oh, but Flashback held the record for best-selling French game.
Okay, hold on. I think that's on like page 92 or something.
Are you looking at the RPG Codex? Because I doubt it's on there.
It's in the case of flashback being...
It's okay.
It
Take your
still
time.
does not count. Okay, it still does not count.
What's your prop
Damn.
for this bit?
It's just a spiral I had here. I thought I was going to write something,
nice.
and then I didn't because I'm fucking... I don't have any ideas.
Like, just get Notepad++, then you won't have to write anything down. Just type it.
My only artistic idea is stating plainly in a Word document that I don't have any ideas, and then turning that into some form
I
of
would
pseudo-elegant,
suggest-
pretentious prose, and that's all I've got.
I would suggest Emacs, but that would be too much for you, probably.
Yeah,
Emacs isn't just a text editor, it's basically an operating system.
it would
that
hurt my
works
brain.
as a program.
Make my brain sore.
The normal control commands do not work as you think they would. In fact, you have to enable those in the options. As in Control-C, Control-X, and Control-V do not do copy, cut, and paste, respectively. They do entirely different things. But it has Tetris built in. It's built in
Nice.
Tetris. It has a few built-in games as well. There's a built-in web browser, although it's only through text. A few other odds and ends.
Like how, this is the last thing I'll say about the movies. In the 2005 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Charlie's mom, is played by the girl from Fight Club.
Oh yeah, Helena Bonham Carter. She's
Uh-huh.
awesome.
Well, yeah, she's in all of Tim Burton's movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I guess I need to watch some more Tim
She's
Burton
the-
movies.
yeah,
she's
she's-
his wife.
The eye candy that makes them palatable.
That makes sense. I mean, her whole character is like that, so that makes sense.
But she's still not as cool as she was in Fight Club, which is just
Nowhere near as cool.
Not as
Or-
cool as she was in Harry Potter.
The mom in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory didn't say, I haven't been fucked like that since grade school, so
Or
That's,
two out of
that's
I
ten.
want
the
you to
one
have
you
my
got, huh?
abortion.
That's the one bit you remember from.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, sure.
That was the first one that came to mind.
Welcome to the Hot Takes podcast. Today, Fight Club, actually good. It's a good movie. Next
Literally
week
hot.
on the Hot Takes podcast, we're going to talk about the
I
fact
would
that
actually be in favor of doing a podcast like that if it's just like the most basic level shit.
Yeah, it'd be-
we
yeah,
present
yeah,
as
that'd be
hard
good.
takes. This just in, Smash Bros. A popular game?
Look, I really like Quentin
not even-
Tarantino's movies, but they're
not
so
even the-
violent.
Not even that it's good, it's popular. Like,
Yeah,
that's
it's
that's how
just-
surface level it is. We're
gotta
acknowledging
say,
the
guys,
popularity of it.
People
I'm a real
really
big
love
fan.
these games.
I'm a real big fan of Call of Duty.
So true, so true, so true, so true. That's true. That's
Apparently,
true. That's so true.
the kid Ness is from a game called Earthbound, which is not a lot of people over here have played that one.
Now, I heard a crazy theory that the character Lucas is from the same game series as Ness, but he's from a game called Mother 3, not Earthbound 2. Check your
What
facts,
the fuck,
gamers.
dude? Doesn't make any sense.
That's retarded. Also, you can't have 3 mothers. You can only have one. You can't be birthed out of 3 vaginas.
Yeah, I guess it isn't really birth if they stuff you up another woman's pussy and then
That'd be really funny if, as soon as you're born, they just
you get
cut you up and
unbirthed.
as soon as you're born, you get cut up into 3 pieces, shoved up 2 other women's vaginas, and then you're birthed again, just to include other women in the process.
I'm glad I don't tell my mom about this podcast.
That would be. Oh wait, you don't tell your mom about it anymore. Ryan smokes a lot of weed. He smokes a lot of weed. He smokes an excessive, comically large, and it's the reason he's such an idiot. He knows what he's doing, and he keeps doing it anyway.
Willful
My big
weed.
secret. I was gonna save it for episode 100, guys.
What episode number are we on? I don't even know.
No,
Um,
it
we're
doesn't
on-
work.
I
if
think
I think
no
we're on
one's
like
listening.
20.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think we're around the 20s. So that means we have to enact
Because you're
prohibition.
you are the only one who numbers your audio.
We're
Yes.
coming up on the point where we can no longer use the excuse that it's a new podcast to explain why it's so shit. If we're just gonna have to own
Have we
up to
been
the
using
fact
that?
that it's,
This is
Well-
like 2 years old.
This is
there's
not
no one
2
to
years
use it
old.
against. But I guess I guess it doesn't matter. Fuck it, who cares? Whatever.
I've never really hid behind the banner of it's specifically new. I've always just known it's been shit because we just talk about whatever and we're not really focused.
Yeah.
But who cares?
Yeah.
Because it
yeah.
doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
I mean, all I can say is that I realize I'm an insane person, but if I found some podcast where they purported to talk about Willy Wonka for 40 minutes and then it sort of went into a nonsense tirade of Courage the Cowardly Dog and CRPGs, I would be like, this is the greatest podcast ever made.
You know what? Me too.
But it doesn't...
I'm happy with the product we've
And if
created
you're wondering,
today.
Ryan, the reason why alignment exists is to mechanically
Yeah.
lock out certain characters from worshipping deities, because you can't have an evil character worshipping Pelor. I thought that'd be
It works in that
self-evident,
sense.
but
Yeah.
Which is
I was
why...
thinking more in a like a character creation sense for like the players.
well, need to play more games.
Which is why,
Yeah.
like,
Let's do the Psychonauts game right now.
aside from Planescape, I feel like the best thing to do with that is to just keep it mechanical and buried on the character sheet and don't talk about it.
Well, I mean,
too
that's the way most people view it anyway.
Yeah, right.
It's not. It's never really been given. I mean, there are people who do give it that, and I haven't really talked to them. But most of the people that I've talked to, when we talk about alignment, acknowledge that it's mechanical only, and the reason why you have things, like alignment and gods that are only locked behind certain alignments is that you act within a general mindset of a character, which is something that people do when they play a character anyway, is they act a
Right.
certain way because that character, is not them. And the only reason why you say I'm chaotic evil is because, well, when I cast the spell Protection from Chaos, now, I can't be affected by your crazy chaotic god, because
Right.
your god is aligned with chaos,
Oh.
and I empower myself with the forces of law. So it's basically it's the same as being like, I'm gonna cast a water shield over myself because you have a fire attack, but
Yeah.
it's much more abstract.
I guess I
The problem
just
where it
wish...
gets kind of muddled. The problem where it gets kind of muddled is the good and evil axis, because
Right.
it's the problem of quantifying what good and evil is, which most DMs are able to intuit. That evil actions can have good intentions, and good actions can indeed have evil intentions. That it's not just always binary.
Mm-hmm.
This is good and this is evil. Which is also the reason why you have lawful good and neutral good and chaotic good, is because there's different flavors of doing good. Is it great? Not necessarily. It's only a basic descriptor of your character, but that's all it's supposed to be. It's not meant to be really in depth.
But
And
would be so much better if you just abstracted them from the get-go and talked about conflicting forces that play that role instead of referring to like existing moral value judgments.
I mean, in
because-
certain settings, that's how people rule it.
Yeah.
That's why it's great, is because everything's left up to your hands. That's rule of cool for you right there.
But it works in Torment because Chris Avalon is good at, when there's a dumb system, the entire story will be about how the dumb system doesn't work, so then it doesn't matter that the dumb system's in there. It's just like KOTOR 2. Maybe spoilers, not really.
The Force sucks.
Or that the light side, dark side is not an adequate metric for...
Yeah, I mean, that was
the
kind of
complexity of-
explored in 1, but not to any real degree.
But not to a degree that it
It's Joe
undermined
Lee, and
its
that's
own...
about it.
its own Star Wars power fantasy, because that was the primary objective of 1, and it does so incredibly well, masterfully well. So, bravo BioWare, who has decided to quit
Died.
making good games.
Well, I'm gonna pin the
Yep.
blame on EA for that one.
I mean, when I say they
Some of
decided
it's
to quit
gotta go to
making good
BioWare.
games, I'm talking about like Mass Effect 1 being the last one, maybe. Mass Effect
Okay.
1 maybe too far even for me to like.
That I'm gonna pin the blame on people with talent leaving the company,
Yeah, right.
which tends
thing
to
happened
happen
with
when they're
Obsidian.
bought out by a major publisher, CEA.
Maybe the same
That's
thing
what
happened with
That's what
Obsidian.
happened to
but-
Bullfrog.
Outer Worlds is a lot fucking better than Mass Effect 1, I think, despite its flaws.
Yeah.
Mass Effect 1 is like... it's an RPG, guys, we swear. I promised.
Ignore the
And it...
third-person space shooting part.
Ignore the fact that your only choices are what kind of attitude do you want to have as you do the thing you have to do.
Yeah, that's the more egregious aspect to
Right.
me. Is it's just the illusion of choice that perpetuates a lot of poorly designed role-playing games of that type. Is the fact that your decisions don't matter, so you don't really have a role to play in the story other than pushing it forward like it's some Sisyphean task.
And the baffling thing is that you don't have to have broad, far-reaching narrative consequences. All you have to have is a game that acknowledges the nuance in your choice. Like, you can have the same sequence of events happen every time, but it can still be an engaging role-playing thing if the inputs you put in have nuance in their phrasing. Like, you get 5 dialogue options, and it's like, yes, because of this reason, or yes, because of this reason. And the writing reacts to that reasoning and treats it like a valid selection. In that sense, it almost doesn't even matter if it's the same. It lessens the replay value, but the initial experience is still one that feels responsive.
Like
Because
how in
it's...
Arx Fatalis, there's no dialogue options. Your character's dialogue is influenced by the actions they take in the game.
Right. That's cool.
It is
But
cool.
it doesn't have, you don't have to be a god with the power to change everything. You can make a story about futility and hopelessness as long as the character can have different fucking opinions on it as it's happening. That's like the most important aspect of the entire operation.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue to some level that is a degree of change because it's a change in the perspective of the player and how they view
Right.
the character. It's not a change on the world, but it's something. It's it's better than red or blue.
Yeah.
Red versus blue. It's better than red versus blue. What I'm saying is that Rooster Teeth sucks, which they do.
Yeah. Well, this is no.
Unfortunately, yeah.
They used
Rest
to be
in peace,
kind
Cow
of
Chop.
okay. They used to be kind of okay, but now they're not.
Rest in peace, pretty much most, like, actually high quality Let's Play channels.
Rest in peace, Celluloid Goblins.
Damn.
Oh no, we're dead!
We're gonna do a Let's Play channel. We're gonna do a Let's Play of the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory PS2 game.
I was gonna say the
Nothing.
GBA one, but sure.
I was thinking I really want to see what that's like. I'm sure I
can
will.
tell you
didn't know
what
that
it's
was
like.
actually a
It's basically a
thing.
3D platformer with some minor puzzle elements, and the 2D platformer. Well, the one on the GBA is mostly a puzzle platformer
Yeah.
because you have to use the Oompa Loompa. You basically have to direct the Oompa Loompas to different machines in order to progress through the level, which I haven't thought of it now, but definitely factors into some greater exploitation of the workforce.
Oh yeah.
Because now you're basically doing on the job training. Like, it's not just a factory tour, you're doing training for the job that you're going to do for the rest of your life by exploiting these workers, which would be pretty cool if the game actually acknowledged that, but they don't. So
That would be awesome. If a
that would be
licensed game did
amazing.
that.
It would
Yeah.
be. I would give. I don't even know. It would. The people who would have worked on that game would definitely have been like blacklisted in some way. It would never
Yeah, right,
be able
right.
to work on anything in the public space ever again because it's like they put this anti-capitalist message into this game.
Such a fucking shame, dude. That's how we reward true innovators and artists in this industry is by McCarthyism.
It's by BJ Novacking them.
Oh, man. I don't know. I might be being too hard on Mass Effect 1, but it feels. I think
haven't played it, so-
anything that puts so much effort into bombastic cutscenes and set pieces is always going to feel like it's railroading you too much into those bombastic cutscenes and set pieces. Like I guess like your choices are mainly you can follow orders racistly or charitably,
Or
but you will
charitably
follow
racistly.
orders. You won't like. There's not even an option to like on the surface follow orders, but then like undermine the entire operation or anything, which would be cool. Yeah, I don't really like Mass Effect.
It seems pretty lame, to be honest.
Would you rate Mass
I haven't
Effect
played it.
higher than any of the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movies?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it has good aspects. I mean, I remember liking some of the side quests. I never really got very far into that game because I never really liked it too much. But yeah, there was some
Barely
interesting
played it.
side stuff in there.
Barely played it.
The biggest problem is that a lot of modern RPGs have this, where the world feels way too fucking concerned about you. Like it's everything is set up in a very specific domino fashion so that you can be big space hero, and it's so fake.
The only good thing to feature golden tickets in it is Dragon Quest V.
Yeah, yep. I know a lot about Dragon Quest. 5 in particular. I'm
The
very
golden
knowledgeable.
ticket, which you win out of the lottery, more aptly translated, it should be named the loyalty card. It gives you a 25% discount on all items in the game. It's very,
That
very
is,
nice.
yeah, that sounds good.
That's why it's the top lottery prize, and it's very hard to get.
Unfortunately, I tried to play Dragon Quest V, and then I just played Fortune Street over and over again. I'm not kidding. I've never
Coming
touched
up
it.
next, guys, Fortune Street Let's Play Celluloid Goblins. We're gonna do it all the way through on the hardest
We're
difficulty.
gonna do that particular one that we played with the Final Fantasy characters.
On the Wii.
Yeah,
Okay.
hell yeah.
On the
'Cause that was
hardest
af-
difficulty. I can't even beat the fucking first level of that game.
Because that was
Dude.
after Square bought Enix and got all the things that they own. Oh, that means
Right.
they own Evo now, so they can re-release the 4.6 billion year
Yeah,
story.
I'm sure they held on to the fucking rights to
The
Evo.
the PC 98 version of the SNES game is way better, mostly because of the amount of different creatures you can evolve into is much larger. Like you can become a hobbit or a shark.
I'm gonna get a gun and do the longest form hostage situation at Nintendo, where basically I'm gonna take a bunch of hostages and I'm gonna keep them until Eternal Darkness 2 is developed and published. And then, so it's just gonna be, like months, like years of just me holding a gun to the hostages and like requesting pizzas for them and stuff while they just create.
We
Eternal
do have a
Darkness
direct
2.
tomorrow, so who knows?
And then once it's made, I'm gonna kill them all anyway, just for the bit.
Totally. Those are the people that deserve to die, bro.
It's not that they deserve to die, it's that if one of them dies, they'll be that much more motivated to work on the project. Because now they're under the threat of death. They know you're not afraid to kill.
Yeah, but you can't push them too far. There's mechanics.
Well, that's the
to it.
delicate balance.
Yeah.
Because you have to be sure of who you murder first. Because if you murder one of the leader types, it could send the message much stronger, but at the same time could set back development time a whole lot. So it's a
Killing
risk versus
children.
reward
If any of
system.
them brought their children to work, that's always a good play because it makes you look
There you
crazy.
go.
Like, you're definitely not crazy. You
That
just
was my
killed a kid, but
that was
it
my
makes you
favorite
look crazy.
Rugrats episode, definitely,
Yeah.
when all the kids were held for ransom. And then they got out of it by being wacky, zany kids.
What's that dumb Rugrats? Is there a Rugrats theory that like Angelica abuses the other kids, or that like she abuses the other kids because she's abused herself or something?
That's possible. It's much less elaborate than the one that I think everyone's heard, which is that Angelica is the only kid that
Yeah,
is real,
that's right.
but the other kids are like dead or don't exist.
Sounds really fucking dumb.
The part that I do like is the fact that the reason why Phil and Lil are twins is because she heard that their mom was going to have a kid, but she never knew if it was going to be a boy or a girl.
That's
so
good.
So it manifests as both, which is kind of cool.
That's good pasta writing / theory crafting. The lines are kind of blurred, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how the other kids work. I forget. I'd have to pull up the huge fucking image.
It's not nearly as cool as the Ed, Ed, and Eddie Purgatory one, which is awesome, and I
Well, yeah,
genuinely
because they're
really
in
like.
purgatory.
You okay?
What?
I mean, I shouldn't have any real standing on it because I never actually watched Ed, Edd and Eddie, but I always thought
What?
that was kind of dumb.
I mean, it
Just
is
in
kind of
general.
dumb, but I just think it's a cool idea. And I just think like more than likely the fact that their designs are kind of anachronistic to one another is just like a stylistic flair. But it's an
It's cool
interesting way
that
to
the fact
analyze
that
it.
yeah,
And
it's
the creator of the show, like, did some really fucking crazy, darker shit, like MTV bumpers before.
yeah, he used to do
Uh,
liquid television stuff, and the reason why he made Ed, Edd and Eddie was someone dared him to make a children's show that was like appropriate for kids,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
that's why Ed, Edd and Eddie exists.
You can't fucking do Ren and Stimpy anymore. You got to actually do one that's actually what's the timeline?
Well, yeah,
on
because
that?
Ren and Stimpy sucked.
Did it? I never really
No.
watched it.
It always seemed like it was just shock value to me, even as a kid.
You guys have this debate amongst yourselves. I haven't watched any of it. So, I mean, I've like watched trivial amounts of it. So I prefer Rocco.
I think saying that the show is only shock value would be saying that Flapjack is only shock value. There's no to say that there's no substance behind any of the jokes they make. I think is not an apt thing.
You
to
think
say.
Flapjack was inspired by Candle Cove?
I'm pretty sure, wasn't it before Candle Cove? It was in like 2011.
I
No,
feel
it
like
was
that
early- it was earlier
creepypasta
than
is
that.
fucking old as shit. Maybe
Flapjack
it's
was
not.
earlier.
But
Flapjack was earlier than 2011.
I don't know how old that pasta is, but
Yeah, I don't know either.
did you guys ever see that show on Sci-Fi that was like, we're gonna do shows based on creepypastas? And then Candle
Well, I
Cove
think-
was the first season, and like it sucked, but they just the design for the monster was
The designs
fucking
were cool.
incredible. It's one of the sickest monster designs I've ever seen in anything, and the rest of it just sucks ass. It's really unfortunate. It's a guy that's just made of teeth, and it's just fucking white bumps of teeth, and he moves, and it's so
Yeah.
fucking it is under your skin so hard.
Yeah, it's like
It's
a Silent
awesome.
Hill design.
It was made by Chris Straub in 2009, the creepypasta.
So that would have been contemporary, I'm pretty sure, because I think Flapjack came out around 2009 or 2008.
That's fair.
Because the reason why, well, not the reason why, but Chowder and Flapjack and I think Adventure Time, since like they all came out at around the same time because those creators went to college together and they were an influence on each other's work.
Right.
And they all worked together on Flapjack, right? was like
I think so,
the-
yeah. C.H. Greenblatt did some backgrounds and he went on to make Chowder. Pendleton
It was like
Ward-
3 big legends,
Well,
quote unquote.
it's Pendleton
Legends.
Ward, C.H. Greenblatt, and the guy who made Flapjack, whose name I can't remember.
I thought the guy who made Powerpuff Girls was involved too.
That's
But-
way earlier.
Yeah, that was like late 90s.
I remember watching fucking
Um,
Powerpuff Girls as like a 5-year-old.
Well, no, I know, but like the guy who worked on it, like helped with it.
No.
Uh, I don't think so. He may have. I mean, he may have worked on it, but he definitely didn't go to school at the same time as those other guys. He
Even
went to
if it's
school at the
right-
same time as Gendy Tartakovsky.
Even if it's right, I'm altering the timeline right
Lauren
now.
Faust.
It's wrong. So wrong.
I think I was thinking of Gendy Tartakovsky and not Craig McCracken, who made Powerpuff Girls.
Okay, but never mind.
That's probably also
that's
wrong,
still,
too.
That's still not correct. Gendy Tartakovsky, I know for sure, had nothing to do with Flapjack.
Yeah, he was just Samurai Jack, and that one was he Megas XLR? I don't think he was.
Generator Rex was the other one. that he
Yes, yeah. Fucking
Can't
generator.
was. And
There couldn't have been any other show that he worked on at all.
yeah, that's it.
One that maybe came out before Samurai Jack. That maybe featured a small boy in the laboratory.
Oh, Johnny Test.
Yeah. That's the point I was directing you towards.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you did a good job. It was well done.
Yeah,
I
we
had to be
we got our Johnny
ambiguous.
Test quota in for the episode.
Next week, the whole series of Johnny.
This, but unironically.
I just
Don't
thought about
say
the
that.
idea of watching the entire series of Johnny Test, and oh man,
You like that
That
conceptually, but as soon as you watch even one episode, you're gonna be off the boat.
let's do it. Let's fucking do
and
it.
they went on for how many seasons? Like, oh,
More than one, which was a crime against nature.
I want to say 8, but that feels like way too
I
much.
hate it. It's
No, I think it's more than 8. I think it's
What?
I think it's maybe 9 or 10. Hang on.
that show is forever like the feeling of
No, I was dead on 8 seasons.
the
Sorry,
feeling
continue.
of you ate too much of the thing, and you're now whenever you think about it, it's nausea. Because whenever I would get home, that show was always on, and I didn't know better than to not subject myself to the horse. I watched it so much, it makes me fucking sick. I actually like have a small amount of nausea coming on thinking.
I hope
about
you feel happy
goddamn
that-
Johnny Test.
Ryan, I hope you feel happy that you're more knowledgeable about Johnny Test than me. I just want you to know that.
Yeah. I mean, the only cartoons I like consistently watched every day for a while was like for at least like 2 years. My morning routine in the morning was just get a bowl of cereal and watch SpongeBob because it was on TV the whole morning that I was getting ready for school, and that was pretty ideal. That was maybe the best time in my life.
I had a few morning.
I had
Fairly Odd
Aqua Teen
Parents
Hunger
is
Force
what
on
showed
at 8 a.m.
is what showed in the morning for me, and then also
That's good too.
Fucking Baby Looney Tunes. I've talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
Also showed in the morning, and
For me, that was in the
Fucking-
afternoon.
there's another
That goes
one.
before my
There's another
time.
big one. Yeah, well, I'm
I had the
old.
Looney Tunes show in the 2010s.
I'm an
That's
old
what I heard.
bitch.
The Looney Tunes show was good. At least I think.
I
so.
didn't know it was actually good until you guys like started saying it. Because as a kid, I was like, I'm watching this, but it's probably bad.
I mean, when I say it's good, I'm thinking about mostly the ones that everyone likes, like the major shorts that are like probably some of the best short films ever made, actually. But
Right.
He's talking about the Looney Tunes show, not Looney Tunes like the ones from the 40s and 50s. Like the 2010 show.
oh,
He
Yeah,
means
I
a show
don't
called
fucking know.
The Looney Tunes Show.
yeah.
I regard Looney Tunes shorts as being generally very good from that era.
Yeah.
Because they just had a lot of really good, cool ideas behind them, and it was just a lot of talented people working in them. A lot of pioneering techniques were developed. A lot of foley art was used, so I liked it. I told Dunk that I wanted to be a Foley artist. That was the first job I wanted to be when I
It's
was
the
a kid.
coolest thing to want to do as a kid. Because, like,
Remind me again. Foley artist.
They do
what that
this.
Oh, the sound effects people.
Yes, named after Jack Foley, who pioneered the field of film sound effects.
it's the guy that fucked your mom to create that audio track of your mom being fucked for that one show. Where your
That's
mom
gonna be
had
fun
sex.
audio to normalize. Cracking a fucking Dr. Pepper can in my microphone.
That one show where your mom had sex with the guy.
Doing your mom. Doing your
Yeah,
mom.
dude.
That one episode of Equals 3 where your mom had sex with Ray William Johnson.
Oh, Jesus.
I could do an episode about Equals 3.
I
Is there
remember
anyone,
seeing
like, is there any worse sexual partner in the world than Ray William Johnson?
Ray William
Jeffrey
Johnson.
Epstein.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Because he always wants to bring the kids into everything.
I'm out of air.
Next week, the Jeffrey Epstein documentary. That it definitely
That totally
an objective
exists.
source. That's a Netflix produced program. Netflix that
Wait.
now works with the Obamas. That has absolutely nothing to do with
Wait, that's real?
political corruption. Yeah,
Yeah.
Of course it is.
I definitely want to hear about corruption that's is politics and mass media very high up, and is released by mass media corporation that has direct ties to politicians.
See,
That's what I want.
there's the part of me that I think y'all know very well that is very anti. I'm not going to check in on popular shit because I hate it. So I'm going to revel in the things that I love because I like them.
Hmm.
Um, but there's always that small voice in the back of my mind that's telling me to look into these things, to maybe not get a Netflix account, but at least look at the catalog so that way I have a reason to hate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
definitely don't get a Netflix account because all the best stuff on Netflix is like they are the easiest movies to just pirate. That's the
Yeah,
part that's stupid. Like if it was the
that's the
harder movies
funniest
to
thing.
pirate, I would love paying for it. But it's like it'll be like, oh, we got Goodfellas on there again. And it's like, you mean Goodfellas, the movie I can find in like 2 seconds to watch? Like this is not worth it. What do you fuck off?
Find like Blu-ray quality torrents in nanoseconds if you know
Yeah,
where you're looking,
pretty much.
or use a streaming site, either or.
Still in Blu-ray quality, a decent chunk of the time.
Exactly, like 1080p if you want, or 720 or 480, 360, 240, 144, any.
God, Netflix is a fucking disaster of a platform. I'm just gonna bitch about how much I hate Netflix. I hate going onto the website and it's immediately yelling at me with an advertisement for some fucking show. Like Jesus Christ, I don't want to be stimulated to the maximum degree at all times. Can you please just shut the fuck up while I look at the offerings available at the trough for me to consume like a fucking pig with my snout buried in your shit? Please stop.
I remember the only time I ever actually used Netflix's streaming thing was, this would have been back in like 2010, 2009, and I wanted to watch the Hey Arnold movie, but it was airing on Nickelodeon while I was still at school because I had to stay after school for some fucking soccer shit or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, so I was like, oh man, I can't watch it because we didn't have a DVR either, so we couldn't record it. Um, but my mom had a Netflix account, and this was recently after they had rolled around the streaming thing. And I was
Right.
like, oh, I'll watch it there. And lo and behold, it was there. And I watched it. And I remembered enjoying it, even though if I probably looked into it now, it probably wouldn't be good. Because this was the original movie. This isn't the recent one that
Right.
came out where it's like he finds his parents, which I don't even know how good that is.
He finds his parents
I've
and
heard it's all right, but
it's two
I don't know.
footballs in the gym closet.
Hey
And he
Arnold,
just
also a
breaks down
pretty
crying.
Hey Arnold, also a pretty good show that handled relatively adult themes in a children's show with grace.
Yeah, I watched it, but I don't remember enough about. Did it like was it like race stuff? Because it's like an
Um,
urban setting, so I'd imagine it'd be like race stuff.
there were a
But
few episodes that were kind of focused on that. It was mostly about, on a broader sense, about acceptance. That's what the
yeah,
greater theme of
okay.
the show was, because you had characters like the Pigeon Man, who in the episode he stars in, he's this figure who is like a hunchback of Notre Dame. He lives on the top of this building, and he surrounds himself with pigeons, and he's marked with ridicule by the children because he's a weird, lazy, smelly hobo. But
Mhm.
but when Arnold approaches him because he finds that that Arnold's own carrier pigeon is sick, and he approaches him because he's good at this shit, he finds out, oh, he's actually like a good guy, and he hangs out with pigeons because he's fed up with living in a modern society and he just wants to live with birds. And
He's an
Arnold's like that,
Prim.
and Arnold's like, hey, that's cool. And then he hangs out with him, and then the other kids discover that Arnold's hanging out with the Birdman, so they trash the Birdman's like pigeon s- space. I don't know what to call it. His warren,
Pigeon
his
World.
aviary. That's the word for it. Um, and then the Pigeon Man's just that after he and Arnold come back after like hanging out for a day, he's like, "Yeah, I knew this would happen, Arnold. It's fine. I'm not meant to live with people. I'm gonna leave and go somewhere with my friends." And in the original cut before it was edited for broadcast, it was heavily implied that after he jumped off the top of the building that he killed himself. But
Yeah.
in the ending for the show that was broadcast, he's carried away by the pigeons into the sun.
Oh, fuck you. Get out of here.
Yeah. I mean, I still interpret that as, he just killed himself,
Yeah,
but
but
it's more
these fucking
the
plague
original vision
dogs.
is
They made
there.
it to the island, but you just interpret it as the island as they died. It's like that still sucks.
Well, look, the original vision was there at least. That's why I
Okay.
give it more credence.
All right.
The same thing as the fact that that was realized in the movie and not in the book,
Mm.
but the editors were shitty. Like, the author's intent is there, and he wanted it to be there, but publishers, editors, censors are shitty. So it's not like it was like that from the beginning or anything, you know. Then I wouldn't be as forgiving.
Welcome back to Celluloid Goblins. Now we're going to do Plague Dogs Part 2 because it's still the best movie that I didn't pick that we've done for the podcast. I think, unless I said that about another more recent movie and I forgot that I said that about.
I don't think so.
No. I
Probably
think you've
not,
only
but-
said about that.
Because Plague Dogs is a fat fucking 10 and a few other things.
It really is.
You have
You liked Honey Boy a lot, but I don't
you
think
have
it's
not
better.
seen it.
Even I don't think it's better than Plague Dogs.
You have not seen the movie. What the hell is your fucking frame of reference here? You're out of your element.
Me?
You have not seen Plague Dogs.
That was like the second episode I was on.
No. That's
Yeah,
not real.
he was there for that. I understand your
We
confusion.
did
but
Into
he
the
was there
Wild,
for
and
that.
then it went to Soy.
Yeah,
We did Plague Dogs.
What?
yeah, he
How
was
is,
there.
how is my memory this wrong? How is
I thought you were doing a bit like he didn't
How-
understand it. But that's why
Follow-up
you're saying he
question,
didn't
how-
watch it.
how little did you contribute to the Plague Dogs episode that I remember you not being on it?
No, I feel like there was something. There was some stuff. I felt very good about it. Here, let me look.
I don't think it was. No, I shouldn't say that.
I'm having. I guess I've lost it. I've
Shouldn't
lost
say
the
it. It was
thread.
mean.
Ugh.
No, I mean, yeah, he was there for that. I remember because that was when we were still at 4 people. I think that was the last
Yep.
episode Mari was in on. Actually, now that I think about it,
No,
was it?
that was Memories of Murder.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was like 2 weeks later. Duh. And then after Plague Dogs, Dunk chose Palo Alto,
Yeah.
which I was definitely for.
Yeah. Definitely still not better than
I-
Plague Dogs, I will
I
admit.
just fucking. I don't know why my brain is so.
Hey, you want to know what? That was 4 months ago. That was uploaded.
Yeah.
I hate how that. Jesus.
You
Which
hate
means it
That
was-
feels like a year, honestly.
Feels like 4 months to me. Could be 5. I'll admit it could be 5.
Yeah.
I
Your
actually
sense of
left
time is
time
definitely
space
dilated.
for a bit, so it feels like 73,000 decades.
You got
No
incepted.
wonder you're so depressed.
Yeah.
We just got to put you back in your original time state.
I don't know how he would do that. I don't know how he left originally, so that's going to be pretty tricky. We're operating kind of blind here.
This is a late game side quest. And you
The
guys are trying to
quest,
do it
yeah, the
way too
late
early.
game, hardest side quest in the game to make Dunk happy.
Like rescue Chrono type shit.
It's
I like
it's the thing where you get it really early, but you're not even gonna have an inkling of how to start solving it. until,
Reversing
like,
quantum
game-
Oh, so it is like
Particles.
Chrono Trigger.
Yeah. I was telling Ryan I had this idea
What's that? You ate my lunch? Get fucking wrecked.
where the guy in the opening town of an RPG gives you like the most cliche quest ever. He's like, "Go kill the 6 rats in my basement," and you go down there and there's only 5 rats, and you get out and he's like, "Oh, one of them must have escaped. I guess you might find him later or something." And then the 6th rat is in like the last area of the game before the final boss. And then if you want to get the reward, you have to like go all the way back to the first area,
And it's
just,
still like 5 gold.
Yeah, I thought that would be really good. I'm obsessed with that fucking mean-spirited side plot.
That, yeah. Coming up next, Celluloid Goblins Development Diary 1.
I mean,
Oh,
I would never actually want to make. I would just want to write out a bunch of shitty ideas and then have that be the artistic work as a design doc where I'm like, yeah, what if you could do this?
Well, yeah, because that feeds into your idea of the ultimate piece of art, which is pure self-expression.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's uncompromised. It's the idea in its purest form. Untainted
That's why I
by-
think you would like Death
technology.
Stranding, despite all like the things about it, because it's Kojima
It's de novo
with
in its purest
completely
form.
unrestricted, that he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
It's de novo in its purest form, like I said.
Yeah.
I don't think that's how that works. This is still a massive fucking game with like thousands of people working on it.
Well, yeah, but
This
he
ain't,
had complete creative control over every aspect of it.
But that's not.
That's still
really
not
what I
entirely
mean.
what that
Oh,
means.
wait, yeah, sorry. No,
I'm not talking about
fuck.
like art.
Yeah,
like
no, I get.
artistry.
Like, it's
I
one
mean,
individual person and not like, because it was made by a whole team of people. I get it.
I mean,
What he
the
means
process
by
of.
what you mean when you say full creative control, that means, okay, well, I'm going to creatively appoint you as the lead level designer.
I'm going to ask you to creatively interpret my idea, which means your brain is still part of the interpretation of the idea. It's part of the reason, like, the single artist theory of art is kind of flawed, is because the actual single artist theory would be just the impression of thought.
That's almost what
Yeah.
Out of This World is. About 3 people worked on that, and Eric Chahi did 90% of the work.
Yeah.
He didn't do the music. That's about it. One guy did the music, the other guy did the sound effects.
It was like that for I think Roller Coaster Tycoon as well, 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, that's how games used to be made. They used to be much smaller projects with usually 1 or 2 different programmers and one guy who did music. And if you didn't have a guy who did music, you had a programmer who knew how to write music. And then you had a graphics guy, and if a guy didn't know graphics, then you had a programmer who also did graphics. And that was that. Hell, I mean, fucking in the C64 days, companies used to employ like 16-year-old kids to help them program games.
Well,
Awesome.
Probably because it was much simpler back then.
I mean, as simple as like sending a tape of your work in the mail and then getting a letter back that says you're hired. Okay, now work on this.
Well, I meant more like the coding, but yeah,
Not necessarily.
complete guesswork on my part. But
Yeah, I can tell. I mean,
Let me know how easy it is to learn assembly, because let me tell you, it's not. As
Yeah,
someone who
it's-
is attempting to learn it right now, it's not.
I really don't think it's easier than downloading Unity.
I mean,
I'm not saying-
ARM is easy, but it's, yeah, like what you're saying, it's much harder than Unity.
And I don't even think using Unity is easy per se, because you still have to, if you want to make it good, you still have to use it well.
But there are a lot of shortcuts that Unity gives you. Number one, by being a game engine.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the major one.
By having things like lighting and physics and rendering. That's a lot of the work already taken care of for you.
yeah,
So, are we still recording?
Yep.
Nice.
I mean,
Nearing
It's the
2
best
hours.
episode
I'm
of the
like-
show.
I'm sweating like a bullet.
You're sweating
hot.
bullets,
You don't
not
have to be
sweating like a
worried. No one's
bullet.
gonna listen to
That's
this,
not
right?
how that goes. You're sweating. You're sweating like a pig, which isn't correct because pigs don't sweat, but that's typically the phrase that we use.
It's 84 degrees, and I have to have my fan off for audio pollution.
Can't be
To capture
polluted.
this silence in its absolute purity.
Silence of the fans.
But
All right. well,
fucking... Yeah, okay, I guess we should stop recording because I'm about to talk about people in the Discord who probably...
Okay, next week, Mary and Max,
yes.
right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I keep thinking it's Max and Mary, but it's really Mary and Max.
Mary and Max go to the store.